What's up, y'all? Y'all know who it is. You know what it is. Your boy JP, the install guy, here to make your install life a little bit easier. And I know it's springtime. Y'all ready to put them subs inside your cars. Everybody doesn't have an aftermarket radio, but if you want to hook up those subs and amps to your factory radio, you're going to need one of these. These are LOCs, or line output converters. And I'm here to spread some car audio knowledge with y'all. This is your first time tuning in to the channel. Please consider subscribing, because these are the type of things that we do here. Car audio tutorials. We do radio removals, anything car audio install related, or if I can just spread some car audio knowledge, whether you're a beginner or advanced, this is the place for you to be. So make sure you hit like, comment, subscribe, share, and all that good stuff. Without further ado, let's jump right on into it. So what is a LOC? A LOC is a module that you will use that allows you to tap into the high level output of your radio or your speaker wires that's coming off of your radio or factory amp, and it will provide you a low level signal to go to your aftermarket amp. Now, why would you need this? If you look behind your factory radio, you do not have a RCA, and a RCA is how we're going to actually send signal to your aftermarket amplifier. Now, you do have some amps out there that actually have a high level input, so where you can use RCAs, or it will come with a plug that you can actually plug into the amp, and it will have these speaker wires kind of pigtailed off of there, and then you can run these to the same high level inputs that you would your LOC and catch your signal from there. But for the amps that don't have that connection, and you have a factory radio and you want to hook up your sub amp, a 4-channel amp, or multiple amps, you're going to need one of these. Now, I get a lot of questions about the LOCs and how to hook them up, so I'm going to answer a lot of those in this video. With the majority of them, I can answer just by displaying this one LOC, so we are going to start here. So number one, what do the wires mean and where do they go? Well, here you have 6 wires. You got 2 whites, 2 grays, and 2 browns. On the 2 pair of whites, you have a solid white and then a white with a black stripe. Here you have a solid gray, and then you also have a gray with the black stripe. These are CEA compliant colors for the aftermarket speakers for your front left and front right. So basically, this solid white will go to the positive driver front speaker. This solid white with the black stripe will go to the negative on the driver front speaker, and the grays will go to the passenger front. Now, with the 2 browns, you would usually twist these together and ground it out if you're getting any type of noise or anything like that. That's what those browns are for. Out of installing a whole bunch of these in the right application, I actually never had to ground this out. So I usually just twist them together, put a butt cap on them, and then I'm pretty much done with that. Now, what I need you guys to understand is that what goes in your LOC is what comes out of the LOC. And I'm gonna break down what I mean. If you're going to hook this up to get signal to go to your sub amplifier, we do not need high frequencies coming into here. So if you have like a component set from the factory that has like separate tweeter wires, you don't want to tap off those tweeter wires with this LOC, because then there's going to be a lot of high frequencies that come in to the line output converter, which means high frequencies are going to come out of your line output converter. So with that RCA going to your sub amp, you're not going to get any bass. The best thing to do is to tap off your front speakers or rear speakers, whichever pair you got that's actually either full range or playing those lower frequencies. That way you can get the proper signal going to your amp. Now, if you have a quote unquote premium sound system, and I usually say that because people sometimes don't think that they have a premium sound system in their vehicle because the sound system kind of sucks. But if you have a factory sub inside of that, that's probably going to be the prime place for you to actually hook up this LOC, because all low frequencies is going to that factory sub. So if you tap off of those wires, it's going to ensure that you got low frequencies coming out of this going to the amp. Now, where can this thing be installed? That's really up to you. If you don't have a premium sound system, then that means that your radio is actually powering your speakers. Sometimes taking the radio out is a little bit easy. I have tons of radio removals for you guys, so I got plenty of resources if you want to go that way. If you have a factory sub in the back, if you feel like popping off all those panels and catching the wires right at the sub, you can, but it might actually be easier if you have that factory sub to catch that at the factory amp, because your factory amp location is either going to be behind the glove box, up under a seat, in a quarter panel, in the trunk somewhere behind that carpet, or maybe mounted upside down on the trunk lid. It's pretty easy to actually get to that. So if you want to hook your LOC there, that may be the easiest way for you to do it, because all your speaker wires will be in one set location. And with that being said, let's talk about a couple of different ways that you can actually hook this up. So you already know that these two whites can go to the left front speaker and the grays can go to the right front speaker. They can also go to the left rear speaker and the grays can go to the right rear speaker. If you have a factory sub that has two voice coils, these positive and negatives can go to one coil. The two grays can go to the other coil. If you have one voice coil on the sub, then I would suggest that you take the two positives, twist those together, go to the positive, and then do the same with the negatives. Twist those together and then go to the negative. That way we're still tapping off of the low frequencies of that factory sub, and then we're going to output the low frequencies to our amp, which would be perfectly fine. Now, I only really recommend that you do that to a single voice coil sub and not when you're doing your front and your rear speakers. And I have had people ask me before, well, I only got one channel coming out, so shouldn't I be able to just do that and tap off of one speaker and be good? Technically, yes. You can do that, but the thing about that is the way different music is recorded on different levels in different ways. So have you ever listened to a song to where when you actually sat inside your car, you heard bass coming out of the left speaker, but you didn't hear bass coming out of the right speaker because they wanted it to be directional? They wanted you to hear something coming from the left side and not the right until they wanted you to hear from the right. Well, let's just say you only tapped off of one speaker wire on the front left side because it was easiest for you to get to, but you didn't do it on the right. When you know that song is supposed to have bass going from left to right and stuff like that, your sub is only going to play bass on this side because it's not getting the information from that side. And also, when you're doing your fade and your balance to the left, if you're playing music, you're going to hear the sub. If you balance to the right and you only have that one hooked up, then you're not going to hear that sub. So it's good to get the information from both sides of the spectrum, which is why they put 4 speaker wires on there, because they want you to tap off both the left speaker and the right speaker so you get the right amount of information, so the sub needs to play exactly what it needs to play. And when I say tap in, I do mean tap in. When you're installing this, you don't actually have to cut the wire. All you have to do is kind of do like a military splice, take that wire, wrap it around, you can solder it, you can heat shrink tape it. Just make sure that wire has a good wire to wire contact with that speaker wire, and then you're going to be good. If you don't know how to do that, I have a couple different videos on the how-to showing you how to actually splice wires and make good connections. I will link that in the description and put that card there in the corner for you so I can keep this thing rolling. Now for your basic application, I usually roll with something like this. This SN915 I think can handle up to like 45 watts, which is more than enough for your average vehicle that doesn't have a premium sound system. But what if you have a premium sound system, which means there's a factory amp that can possibly be putting out more wattage than that 20 to 45 watts. Also, the number one question is I get, yeah, I got the signal, but how do I turn my amplifier on? Well, I have a couple videos showing you how to do that by tapping into the fuse box or other ways, but if you get one of these line output converters, that may solve your problem. Now, I actually want to get into these first before we talk about the Zapco piece. Here we have the Pac LP7-2 and the LP7-4. So with these, I really do like these. This is going to be a step up from the SN915. I believe they can handle up to 55 or 60 watts coming from whatever factory system that you have. They also have signal level gain adjustments on the back to make sure that you can actually match that sensitivity right with your amplifiers. And if you notice that you'll have a connector input on the back because it comes with its own harness. Now this harness is going to have your speaker wires hooked up to it. With the LP7-2 and the LP7-4 is going to have these RCAs on the end because this thing can be used for more than just hooking up a line output converter to send signal to your aftermarket amp. I will link a video going to where I go more in depth with the LP7-4 so we can keep this thing rolling on track. But in order to hook this up the same same way that you did this, you will literally just cut those wires right in half. You can do whatever you want to do with the RCA part, and then you will actually tap this into your speaker wires using the ends that you cut. Now this is a LP7-2, so this one will be good for subs, and this is a LP7-4, which means you can either use this for a 4-channel, or let's just say you have a 2-channel amp and a sub amp. You can run your 2-channel off the front and run your sub off the rear. If you want to do a 4-channel amp and a sub amp, you can run your 4-channel off the front and a 2-channel off the rear. But what you'll have to do is get some Y adapters. My bad, I was trying to grab one, but this is a Y adapter. Now what you actually need is you will need a 1 male to 2 female, and then what you do is you'll be splitting this one into 2 and then splitting that one into 2, and then that way you can run your 4-channel off the front and then run your sub off the rear. The only thing is that if you try to do any type of fade and balance, it will not, because you're already splitting that frequency at the LOC. But these 3 wires are what we want to actually talk about. So this black one, it goes to chassis ground. This yellow goes to 12-volt constant. And when these 2 are hooked up, it will output a 12-volt source. And another step up from that is going to be the Zapco asp-oeb. It's still going to be a 2-channel LOC, just like this one right here. The only difference between this one and that one is this one's just a little bit more active. It doesn't come with a harness. It only comes with these plugs that you can actually disconnect. You can actually disconnect the plugs, put your wires in here. It takes a little Phillips head screwdriver to open these up and close them up, and then close them down, whatever you want to say, and then you just push them back in like that. And on the top part, you have your power plug. Now that top one is going to be ground. That second one is going to be 12-volt constant. And this one actually gives you an option. You can either use 12 volts coming from the car somewhere, like a fuse box or something like that, to turn this on, and then it will output 12 volts on that bottom one. So you can use this as a remote, or it has a switch over here for auto on or off. And what that means is that when this thing senses the speaker wires, it will automatically turn itself on. So as long as you put ground at the top, 12-volt constant on that second one, this will output 12 volts as long as it sees the speaker wires. Now, you also have the level adjustment on here. This one, I think, has the highest voltage RMS coming out of those RCAs at 9.5 RMS and about 14 peak. Now, one thing that I need you guys to understand, if you get up to your car and you have a smart key, and then your car actually notices when that car is within 10 feet and you have one of these hooked up, when that senses when it senses the speaker wires or that BCM wakes up the car, the amp will turn on because of that, which also means that until your car goes fully asleep, the amp will still be on until the car goes to sleep. And I want to actually make that known, because we get a lot of people that come back after we hook up a LOC and they say, man, my amp won't turn off. And the first thing I ask them is, well, has your battery died? No, my battery's not died, but when I get out the car, the amp is still on. So what we'll have to do is literally stand there with them, lock the door, get the key about 10 feet away, and we sit there and wait. And usually after about between 2 minutes, about 2 and 3 minutes, or whenever your car decides that it goes into full sleep mode, then the amp cuts off. So if you purchase one of these and that amp stays on, or if you think that it doesn't turn off for whatever reason, don't think that you hooked up anything wrong. Don't think that there's anything wrong with the module. Lock the doors, get the key about 10 feet away, go back to the car, and then wait till your car actually goes into full sleep mode. And I do mean sleep mode, not just when your dome lights cut off. Your dome lights can cut off and then your car can still be pulling current, and usually about between 2 to 3 or 4 minutes, the car actually cuts off everything, and then you don't have to worry about anything being on except for a couple relays that's not going to draw pretty much any current. That's when these things are going to cut off. Like I said, all these are LOCs. All these will be good for exactly what you need to do to hook up a sub to the amplifier. For your basic non-premium type vehicle like bones dry, no bells and whistles, this is going to cover about 90% of the vehicles that you go ahead and get. It's a cheapie. It's like 15-20 bucks or whatever. Like I said, all these links will be down in the description. So I would definitely use this for your everyday type of application. There's nothing wrong with that. Now you do have some cars that are factory, they're non-premium, but they are still factory amplified. So like, let's just say you have a Chevy, you don't have the Bose system, but it does still have a factory amp. This will still be good for that application. Now with the Bose system, it might be putting out a little bit more power than that regular just Chevy factory amplifier. So then I'll probably not use this. You could probably still get away with it, but to be on the safe side, I'll probably do the LP7-2, especially if you're using a Chevy, because it's kind of hard to find an ignition inside that vehicle so you can actually turn that amp on. So this will give you the best of both worlds, to gig signal to your amplifier and a remote turn on. So, and when I say at the amplifier or behind the radio, of course when you're behind the radio you're going to be able to catch the outputs, but if you have a premium sound system or factory amplifier system, then that radio is not sending power to those speakers. The radio is sending signal to the amplifier, and that amplifier is sending power to the speakers. If you're going to be tapping into your wires at the amp, make sure you're tapping into them on the output side of that amplifier. You don't want to catch the input side, you want to catch the output side. Like I said, if you guys need any type of help of finding those actual wire colors, so you make sure you don't actually tap on the wrong ones, make sure your stuff is in phase, positive going to positive, negative going to negative, then go ahead and hit me up on that Patreon so I can get that stuff over to you. Speaking of Patreon, I'd like to go ahead and take this time to give those guys a shout out, man. You guys go the extra mile in supporting me, so I go the extra mile supporting you guys with stuff that I don't show on YouTube. I give you those behind the scenes footage, aftermarket wire colors, and you also get a chance to actually win some free car audio stuff just by supporting the channel. Now, if you don't want to be held down to anything too long-term, but this thing still brought you some type of value, there is that heart down there that actually says thanks, not asking anybody to do anything that they don't want to do, but anything that you do is also greatly appreciated. But until next time, this your boy JP signing out, and if you found any type of value in this video, please hit that like button. Don't forget to subscribe, share, comment if you want to. Till next time, y'all have a blessed day.